One of the most dangerous things to ever face our country is taking place right this moment, and most people don't seem to notice. For almost 250 years, America has been a country of law and order, but recently law and order has been replaced. The justice system has been weaponized. Are we targeting rioters who burned down major cities in 2020? No. Are we imprisoning violent criminals who threaten the health and well-being of the citizens? No. Are we going after illegal immigrants for breaking our laws? Absolutely not. No. Instead, the lawfare has been targeted at Donald J. Trump, the former president of the United States. Why does this man deserve our scrutiny, our vitriol, our hatred? Because the Democrats say he's a big, mean, nasty man, and they don't like him very much. And when the Democrats don't like you, they will break all the norms, rules, procedures, and laws to put you in prison. We're going to go through all the cases today. I'm Tyler Chrestman. Welcome to the Chrestman Conversation. Okay, so unfortunately, Donald Trump has quite a few lawsuits that are against him at the moment. And we're going to go through them, but we're going to have to go through them quickly because, as I just said, there are a lot of them. We're going to touch on them briefly. I just want to go over all the ways. There are 3 in New York, 2 by the Biden DOJ, 1 down in Georgia. But before we get into any details about any of them, I want to just start this off by just saying this from the jump. What I said in the intro is absolutely true. It is ridiculous. This is Banana Republic type stuff. The idea that we are going to weaponize the legal system against people, this is bad. This is what tin pot dictators do in the third world. This is not what we should be doing in America. You might not like Donald Trump, but if you're cheering all of these cases against him, as we're going to go through, there are a bunch of them for a bunch of different things. You are so mistaken, it is hard to put it into words if you are supporting these lawsuits. Because the Democrats always seem to have a little problem being nearsighted. They look at the short-term gains that they are going to get from doing a thing, and then they don't think about when they're not in charge because it's like they think they'll always be in charge. We saw this with the Supreme Court. Everyone complains about the Supreme Court. Oh, my gosh. The Republicans stole the Supreme Court. But why did that happen? It's because the Democrats decided to blow up a rule in the Senate that said that you needed 2/3 of a majority to get federal judges appointed. Instead, they said, no, we're not going to do that. They blew up the rule and made it so it was a simple majority. And so what did the Republicans do? When they took control, they said, okay, then we're going to do the same thing. And they made it so that you only needed 51 votes to get Supreme Court judges in. That's it. And the Democrats did it, and then they complained about it when the Republicans did it. This is the same thing. Do we think that the next Republican isn't going to just go full force against Joe Biden? We're going to launch investigation after investigation into prominent Democrats, and they're going to just find stuff. Because I'm sure there are things that people are doing that are against the law. We're going to go through it right now, but I hate this. I hate it so much, and it is dangerous. Because if you think Trump is so singular in politics that no one else will ever be like him, you're mistaken. If you think that he's so bad, so evil, so dangerous to the republic that he can't ever be president, and you're willing to break all the rules, all of your rules, to keep him away from the presidency, you are the bad guy in this situation. It's not Donald Trump. I have my problems with Donald Trump. I've made them very clear to most people. You can't break the laws. You can't try and put people in prison on trumped up charges, no pun intended, and then also be the good guy. You don't get to do both things. So let's jump into it before we spend a half hour just ranting about this. We're going to start with the silliest case first. Now, E. Jean Carroll is a crazy person. All right? I don't know how else to say this. Apparently she was popular at one point doing some writing. I don't know anything about her other than this trial. So maybe in the 90s or the 80s, she was a good advice columnist or whatever the hell she did. But she's a crazy woman. Now, I've seen her interviews. She is nutty. She's a goofy person. The fact that she came out with a memoir and said Donald Trump raped her in a department store in the 90s, and we had to take this seriously. I don't understand. Okay, I get it. There is no one, and I mean this, there is no one who hates violence against women, sexual assault, rape, as much as I do. I hate violence against females. It is outrageous. But here's the but. We can't just say, well, she obviously is telling the truth. This woman is baddie. Okay? I don't care how that sounds. You don't get to wait 30 years and then say, I'm going to release a memoir now that Donald Trump is the most famous person in the world and say that he raped me in the 90s, and then we all just have to believe you. I don't find her very credible. She has a nutty story that makes no sense. Donald Trump bumped into her in a department store, asked her to come up, try some lingerie on. They've managed to find the only dressing room in a department store ever that is just completely unsupervised, and then he physically overpowered her in the dressing room and raped her in broad daylight. This is an outrageous, nonsensical story. But a jury in Manhattan found that Donald Trump did it. By the way, the only reason that this got to be brought to trial, and here is one of the problems, is because New York passed a law specifically to target Donald Trump that said that they were going to extend the statute of limitations on cases of sexual assault so that people could sue for damages for a longer period of time. They did this basically to target Donald Trump. So they passed a law specifically to allow E. Jean Carroll to sue Donald Trump. That is outrageous. It's crazy. That is a crazy thing that you think is, that anyone could think that that's appropriate. So we're not going to sit here and call E. Jean Carroll a liar. I'm going to say I find her questionable. I find her to be a crazy person. I'm going to say her story sounds crazy. But a jury found in her favor. So they awarded her $5 million in damages. Donald Trump appealed, and then a judge ruled that $5 million isn't too much and said Donald Trump has to pay E. Jean Carroll $83.3 million. Based on what? For what? Who knows? I have no idea. But they got to take Donald Trump's money, so that's great for them. Again, what does this have to do with anything? The fact that she couldn't remember the year. They had to ultimately kind of pin down that it was probably 1996. But she can't remember the year that this happened. There's no evidence at all, period, that this happened. No evidence other than what she says. None. And yet she wins a case for $83 million based on she said something happened 30 years ago with absolutely nothing, zero things to back it up. Okay, whatever. Do Democrats think that that's appropriate? I heard them cheering on it. Rachel Maddow had her on her show to talk about how great it was that she won this victory for women's rights. It's nonsense. It's outrageous. But anyway, that's just the first one. We also have in New York, the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, going after Trump's businesses, trying to get $250 million out of Trump's businesses. What is the crime Letitia James is going after? Well, she said Donald Trump inflated his net worth to receive favorable treatment from banks. Okay. It really didn't matter what the crime was. Letitia James, she vowed to get Trump before she was elected, before she investigated him, before she knew anything about the man's businesses. She vowed to go after Donald Trump because it was good for her campaign and it makes her famous. That's all. And guess what? She did. When you are a district attorney or an attorney general, a prosecuting attorney, or a police officer, and you say, I don't like that person, let's find the crime, you're the bad guy. You don't get to just investigate one person hoping to find a crime. The way that the law is supposed to work is you're supposed to know there's a crime, and then you investigate it, and you find out who did it. You don't get to say, let's find the person, and then find the crime. Actually, as I say that, I think Lenin, maybe Stalin, said something like that, like, show me the person, show me the crime. I feel like that's a quote from So let's look it up real quick. Show me the person, I'll show you the crime. Let's see if we can't show me the man, I'll show you the crime. Okay. That is a quote. It's from Lavrentiy Beria, who was Joseph Stalin's police chief. Oh, okay. So Joseph Stalin's police chief and Letitia James have a lot in common, don't they? Show me the man, I'll show you the crime. That's what they're doing to Donald Trump right now. And this crime, by the way, that Donald Trump defrauded banks and insurance companies to receive that's the crime. He inflated his net worth to receive favorable interest rates from banks and get insurance, better insurance prices. Well, you say, okay, well, so if he defrauded somebody, then there has to be fraud, right? Like, where's the fraud? Because the banks and the insurance companies don't say that there was fraud. They are happy to do business with Donald Trump anytime. They say Donald Trump was a great business partner. So who did he defraud? Is the government? That's not what the case is about. It's about the banks. They say he defrauded the banks, but the banks say he didn't defraud the banks. So what are we talking about? And Letitia James, by the way, they did a net worth assessment of Donald Trump, and they lowballed it. So crazy. I think they said that, I don't even want to throw out a number because it's going to be so wrong, but I think they said Mar-a-Lago was worth like $50 million. That's $1 billion place that they were like, no, you'd only get $50 million. You put that on the market, you'll never get more than $50 million. That's outrageous. It's $1 billion property. But they did this all over the place, and they said, oh, he's not worth any money. Look at that. It's a nonsense thing. Donald Trump is so well known in the real estate game before he became president, before he became TV famous, that the banks wanted to do business with Donald Trump. Who was defrauded? It's not like Donald Trump inflated his net worth and then didn't pay the banks back, and now the banks are upset. The banks got their money. What are we talking about? There's not a crime here. This is outrageous. It's nonsense. We all know it. But James, again, wants to be famous. That's what these people are charging Donald Trump. They want to get their name in the paper. They want to run for higher office at some point, and they're going to say, I went after the president. Look at me. I'm so brave. There's another case in Manhattan. District Attorney Alvin Bragg charged Donald Trump with a crime that literally no other person has ever been charged with. And I am using the word literally in a literal way. No other person has ever been charged with this crime. Alvin Bragg is charging Donald Trump with a campaign finance violation because Donald Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen, paid a porn star hush money during the 2016 presidential campaign. Now, there's a problem with Alvin Bragg charging Donald Trump with this crime. Alvin Bragg has no legal authority to charge the former president with his crime. So, what has he done to make this a crime? He did some legal ninjutsu and charged Donald Trump with a New York crime of falsifying business records by charging money to his attorney. Instead of writing hush money on the memo line of the check, he wrote lawyer fees. Oh my gosh. So Alvin Bragg has no legal justification to charge Donald Trump with this crime because it would be a federal crime if it was a campaign finance violation. And the New York district attorney has no federal authority. So he had to find a crime that was a crime in Manhattan. So he can't charge him with campaign finance violations, which is what this would be if it was a crime. So instead he said, well, he falsified his Manhattan business records because he was paying attorney fees, and he included this in his attorney fees, which counts as, I think it was a misdemeanor, by the way. That's a misdemeanor in Manhattan, falsifying business records. However, he then said that it was somehow, I'm trying to remember exactly. It's really complicated what he did, because what he did was he changed the laws. So instead of charging a campaign finance violation, he charged falsifying business records, and then somehow linked it to something else like, what was it? somehow it's a crime to interfere with an election in Manhattan, something like this. So he somehow made it a felony, even though he has no legal authority to charge him with campaign finance violation, and it's a misdemeanor, the crime he is charging him with, but he somehow transformed it into a felony by combining two laws into one. Like I said, no one has ever been charged with this crime, ever, period. Is that good? Is it good to make up a crime to charge the president with so Alvin Bragg can get his name in the papers and be a big hero of the left? Is that a good thing? Do we support this in America? Is that what we should be doing, targeting the former president of the United States with made-up crimes that no one's ever been charged with? I don't think so. And the case ultimately is going to be laughed out of court. I don't see a way around it. Even in Manhattan, where Donald Trump couldn't win any trial that you put him in front of, I don't think this is ever going to see a jury. I don't. And if it does, if somehow Donald Trump gets convicted, it is going to be struck down on appeal in a heartbeat. There is just absolutely no way that Donald Trump gets convicted of this one. It's like trying to push the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle together from two different puzzles and just saying, it's going to fit. We just got to push harder. It's not going to work. It just isn't. The federal government is not interested in pursuing Donald Trump on this case because it leads to a whole bunch of questions about what campaigns do and don't spend money on. Is the Steele dossier from Hillary Clinton that they paid for, is that appropriate use of campaign finance money? I don't know. Paying hush money to a porn star. Oh, all right. Well, whatever. That's not a good look. I get it. You want to stand on your moral high ground and you've never had to pay money to a porn star. Congratulations. Good for you. I don't care. It's just, this is one of those things that Donald Trump does. I don't care. I really don't. I don't think the president of the United States needs to be the most, he's not my spiritual leader. Okay. Does he have good policies? Is he going to be an okay leader? These are things that matter. Did he pay money to a porn star he slept with in the 2000s so she wouldn't come out and talk about him during an election where he's running for president? That seems like, politician stuff. I don't know. It doesn't bother me. And ultimately, again, this case is going to be laughed out of court. The news outlets, though, are treating it with the gravitas that they think it deserves because, oh, my God, Stormy Daniels is going to be in the news because it's really important that we know that she slept with the president and then she went on MSNBC and said his penis is shaped like a mushroom. It's like, oh God. We're going to treat this like real news. Oh, we're going to have Stormy Daniels on because she's the good person in this scenario. Stormy Daniels, the porn star, is going to teach us about how it's bad to do wrong things. Oh, okay. All right, Stormy Daniels. Why don't you go ahead and sit there and talk about how you're the good person because you slept with Donald Trump knowing he's married, then you accepted his money, and then you decided you didn't want to honor the non-disclosure that you signed. So, yeah, let's go ahead and make Stormy Daniels a hero. Whatever. That one's just silly. That one's a silly trial no one cares about. I shouldn't say no one cares about. No one should care about because it's just nonsense. What about the Georgia trial? Oh, now he's got a trial in Georgia. Remember, he tried to overthrow the election. He called up Brett Raffensperger and tried to get him to find him votes and blah, blah, blah. Well, the Atlanta district attorney, this woman named Fani Willis, she brought Trump and loads of other people up on racketeering charges in relation to stealing the 2020 election. Again, why district attorneys around the country think it's their job to do this is astounding. It's not your job to police federal elections, but Fani Willis found a way. And the fact that people treat Bragg and Willis like they're doing good work, it really does. It boggles the mind. This case in particular, this Georgia case, is going to be long and complicated because it's basically a RICO charge. So RICO is something that the federal government designed to go after the mafia. What does RICO stand for? Stands for, I think it's Racketeering, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act. I believe that's what it was. And basically the idea was that you had these guys who sat in the head of powerful criminal organizations, and just because they didn't give every order, they were responsible for the umbrella below them. So it was a way to charge higher up people with racketeering based on the crimes committed by their underlings. It's kind of the gist of what RICO is supposed to be. So the idea is she charged the Trump administration, a bunch of people in the administration, with racketeering in a hopes that she can tie any wrongdoing by the lower level people back to Trump. It's kind of a novel theory, but again, is this a good thing? Do we think that RICO was invented to go after a president for, quote-unquote, stealing the 2020 election? I don't think so. That seems like a stretch. It seems like nonsense. And when we change the law, when we distort the law to suit our own political purposes, this is not good. So, again, this is going to be long and complicated. I don't really have a lot of thoughts on it because it is so complicated and we're in the early stages. I do have one thing to point out, though. It turns out Fani Willis she appointed a special prosecutor to lead the investigation, to lead the prosecution against Donald Trump. And turns out he was married until the day he was appointed special prosecutor. The day he was appointed special prosecutor, he filed for divorce because he and Fani Willis were sleeping together. Prior to that, she was she was committing adultery with this man. Then her office paid him $600,000 to this special prosecutor, who it sounds like has no business prosecuting this crime, but was appointed anyway, which he then, the prosecutor, turned that $600,000 around and took Fani Willis on some fancy trips and got her some lavish gifts. So looks like some corruption. Are we allowed to just appoint our lovers to positions of power, pay them government money, and then use that government money so they can buy you fancy trips around the world? Seems like corruption. She should be ousted. This whole trial is probably up in the air because of it. She is probably not the hero that people want to make her out to be. Just saying. Anyway, we're going to move on because that one's complicated, and that whole thing is in limbo right now because Fani Willis is an adulterer. So what about the federal cases, the cases that the Biden DOJ are bringing against Trump, with the special prosecutor Jack Smith on the case? Donald Trump is being charged currently with 37 felonies in connection with keeping classified documents after he left office. Now, of all the cases against Donald Trump, this one is the easiest and most applicable, open and shut, actual case against the president. Trump seemingly did do this. It's true. He seems to have taken documents that were classified, and he kept them. Okay. Now, this problem it's not so much a legal problem, because, again, this is a crime. It's a crime that is real, and he's being prosecuted for a crime that is real. The problem for the DOJ is that this is a very politically fraught crime. Because after this investigation started, it turned out that the current president, Joe Biden, kept classified documents all over the place. They were found in his home. They're stored next to his Corvette in the garage in unkept boxes. They were found in the office at the Biden Center for Chinese Grift. Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, that's not the real name. The Penn Biden Center. I always get those confused. But they had classified documents there. Hillary Clinton had classified documents on a private server in her home. This is a political problem because Jack Smith is going to have to show how Donald Trump should be a felon while Joe Biden is just sloppy. This is a political problem because Jack Smith is going to charge Donald Trump with 37 felonies for holding on to these documents. You have to explain why one is a crime and one is not a crime. They're the same thing. Regardless of how you feel about Joe Biden or Donald Trump, they are the same thing. They both had classified documents at home. That's what it is. So there is a special counsel investigating Biden as well. And yesterday, they released a 300-page report on the incident. Oh, my God. I wish this had come out a little earlier so I could read a little bit more of it because I didn't get to read. I just saw snippets of it going around. But Joe Biden has a defense for this, by the way. So the DOJ says one's a crime, one's not. Well, Joe Biden's defense could just be this. Here is a snippet. This is a quote from the report into the investigation on Joe Biden having classified materials. Here's a quote. Quote, "We have also considered that at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview, as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with poor memory." End quote. Now, there are some hilarious bits in here where they talk about how bad Joe Biden's memory is. They say at different points he couldn't remember when he was no longer vice president. He forgot what year his son died, couldn't remember based on several years. Yesterday, he did a press conference where he confused the president of Egypt and Mexico, and then he said Mexico should open its border to let the Gazan refugees in. He thought Mexico was in the Middle East, and then he confused that. He said the name of the Egyptian president and called him the president of Mexico. It's like, what are you talking about? This is a terrible look. He's trying to he said, I'm mentally fit, and then he proceeds to confuse Mexico and Egypt. Okay, wow. So Biden at least has some defense against the charge. He can claim his senility is really at blame and why he kept the documents in the Biden Center for Chinese Grift, and maybe he can get out of a felony conviction. Those are just some, by the way. There are more cases against Donald Trump all over the place, but those are just some of the cases. I know I've asked this a couple of times already, but I'm going to come back to it. Do we think this is good? Does anyone think this is a good idea? Should we be charging Donald Trump with crimes no one has ever been convicted of? No one's ever been tried before? The Alvin Bragg case? Do we think that it's appropriate to pass laws specifically so certain people can sue Donald Trump for damages? Do we think that that's appropriate? Do we think it's a good thing that the DOJ will prosecute certain people and not prosecute other people? Is that a good thing? Do we think that that's appropriate? That the same crime can be committed by two people, but they only prosecute the crime when it goes one way politically? Is that okay? Is it good? If Donald Trump is convicted of mishandling classified documents, I predict that it will be the closest we ever get to a split in this country since the Civil War. I really do believe that, because Donald Trump is going to be the Republican nominee for president. He is going to be. There's no way around it. He is. The people voted. They wanted him. I voted, or I didn't get a chance to vote. I would vote for Ron DeSantis. That is who I wanted. But you know what? Donald Trump is who the people wanted. I don't get to pick the nominee. The Democrats don't think that the Republican people should get to pick their nominee either. They don't think that they say democracy's at stake. Meanwhile, they're trying to put the leader of the opposition in prison for a crime that the leader of their party has also committed. Do we not think this is a problem? We can't have a political system or a system of laws, a justice system that is rules for thee but not for me. We can't have that. It's not, people don't survive that kind of thing. And none of this is good. All of these people who the left wants to lionize, they want to put up as heroes for the cause, you're doing yourself a disservice, because when it turns around, you're not going to like the results. And it's why I always caution everyone against using power. When you use power, what you're doing is opening up a justification for power to be used against you. It's why everyone needs to be very careful. The Republicans tend to punch back. The Democrats tend to punch, and the Republicans tend to punch back. And it's important to remember that, because the Democrats are the one who blew up the filibuster for judicial nominees. The Democrats are the one who were talking about blowing up the filibuster and just making everything a straight line vote down the middle. The Democrats are the one now who are weaponizing justice against the Republicans. The Barack Obama, his DOJ targeted 501c3s by Republicans who were pro-life. They went after their people with the IRS. They went after charities. They went after tax-exempt status for churches because Barack Obama didn't agree with the politics of people. And he claimed he didn't know anything about it. But you're the head of the party. The buck stops with you. It's your fault when people do these kind of things. And so it's not good when the Democrats break the norms. It's not good when people are cheering for the norms being broken. We can't have that as a country. We really can't. And this stuff right here, I don't care how you feel about Donald Trump. I really don't. I get it. I get that people don't like him. I understand. I get it. There's no part of me that is ignorant as to Donald Trump's failings as in the last year of his presidency, in his rhetoric, in some of his mannerisms. I get it. I understand why people don't like him, okay? But do you think that it's good to blow up the country over it because he's so dangerous? You say, oh, Donald Trump is so dangerous, this could be the fall of the republic. Meanwhile, you're blowing up the republic by targeting him, this guy that people love. You might hate him, but other people love him. And when you say to half the country, well, we're going to put this guy you love in prison on some charges that we'll just ignore for other people, or because we're going to target him for crimes that don't really exist, we're making up. That's outrageous. Okay? We need to fix this. We need Democrats to come out against this. If you are one of the sane Democrats out there who value what America could be, what America has been in the past, what America could be, you have to police your party. I think it's up to the Republicans to police their party. When they go too far, you got to pull them back. And the Democrats have to realize that their party is going too far right now. And it seems like most people don't. Anyway, we're going to leave it there for the day. As always, questions, comments, concerns. If you got suggestions for other topics or you just want to talk about something, hit me up in the comments on any of the platforms. Facebook, YouTube are big ones for seeing the comments. Obviously, Rumble is good too. Always love that. But any of that stuff, as always, I will talk to you guys on the next episode. You take it easy.